Welcome. This is the podcast series dedicated to living a revenue culture. And for those who you have been with us before, you know a revenue culture is where you've maximized profit because you've optimized your people in a low friction revenue context. So every 2 weeks, we try to bring you people from the real world who are actually doing this kind of work, and they have stories to tell us and stories to share. Sometimes the stories are, and I think you'll find that today, very heartwarming, and you want to be part of it. And sometimes the stories are more challenging, but they're always the stories that entrepreneurs and business owners need to relate to, and what can I learn from it? So today, I've got Natalia Zacharin with us, and I have been fascinated. And I think I met her through an agent she uses to make herself available to podcasts. And it's just been a wonderful experience to learn about her background. And so she is an entrepreneur. She has managed to make the Inc. 5000 list, which is obviously a great accomplishment for anybody. And she has developed a very substantial business, and it looks like by adding a lot of value to her clients. So, Natalia, welcome.
Thank you, Rick. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
So, one of the things that we try to teach our clients how to get the attention of their ideal buyers. And on your LinkedIn profile, in your About section, you tell a story that is helps buyers know you and helps buyers relate to you. So, would you tell us your About story, which is kind of how you got here?
Sure. So in 2012, I found myself in a position where I was going through a divorce and I needed to get a job. Prior to that, I was a sales rep for Reynolds Wrap Aluminum Foil Company, company car, all the whistle, bells and whistles, making really good money. Stay-at-home mom for 6 years, went through a divorce, go back into the workforce. I couldn't find a job, kept actually um, going for lesser and lesser opportunities. So I started out trying to get a sales position. No one was contacting me at all. Couldn't get an interview. Tried to get other positions until I finally walked into the store where I used to go shopping and begged them for a job. And they hired me at $7.10 an hour. And I was 42 years old as a single mom.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
And what
So
what what kind of store was that? Just to complete the picture. Grocery
it
store?
was it was a clothing store, White House Black Market. I still love to shop there. It's a great store for professional attire, and I used to shop there all the time. And I think that they literally hired me because they knew me as a customer, because no one was hiring in 2012. It was not a good year
Yeah, no,
for
it's
the
not.
economy. Yeah.
So then do the progression.
So $7.10 an hour was less than what I made when I was 13 years old with my first job. So that was very humbling. Not that I felt that I needed to be humbled, but it was extremely humbling. And working there was kind of difficult. Retail is not for the faint of heart, and you
No.
get a lot of attitude and drama when you're working in retail. And as a single mom and trying to make ends meet, I got my first paycheck and it was like 240 something dollars. It was less than my utility bill. So it was really difficult at that time. But I knew that having a job would be the stepping stone to the next job. And I knew I had to start somewhere. So delaying that and waiting for like the perfect job to me felt like a fantasy. I needed to start making money right away, and I needed to start that process of the stair stepping up from there. And so I took the job. I would have taken anything, honestly. And I took the job. From there, I went to another job working. I think it was for a service, for a part-time position, or I can't even remember, like Robert Half or something like that, for $12 an hour for a couple of months. And then finally, I landed a job at a corporation, Barcoding Inc., in Baltimore for about $50,000 salary, which was still way less than what I needed as a single mom. But it was something, again, stair stepping. So that whole process took about a year to get to the $50,000. Was I in debt? Yes. What got scary was I needed to completely up, do an upheaval of my budget, which I never had to do before. So I noticed within the first 2 months, I ran out of cash immediately. Because I was still living the way I was used to living, which again, we weren't wealthy, but I was living according to what was coming into the
Sure.
household before. And now suddenly I'm making $7 an hour. So I had to completely revamp all of my decision making on how I was spending. And I think that whole process, I really believe that this entire um, journey from that point until to where I am now has been extremely helpful because now I really know how to budget. I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to go from poverty into building a business and everything in between. And that wasn't the first time I was in poverty. I ended up in poverty again in 2018. So on poverty levels, because my job demoted me. They were trying to, I think, exit me out. And again, I couldn't find another job. I was looking, I was trying to interview, and I finally decided to, after talking to my boyfriend, then to start my own business, and that's when everything changed.
Wow. So, what made you pick the type of business you're in?
Um, my boyfriend, who is now my fiance, this is his fifth business that he's owned. He owns a tax firm. And he said, "Why don't you start your own business?" And I said, "Doing what?" Because I don't know what I can do. I felt like a failure constantly because I kept finding jobs and putting all of my effort and everything into it. And I wasn't in alignment somehow with where I was at. They didn't see me for my possibilities at all. And maybe that's partially my fault. I felt really heartbroken. I felt like I was not intelligent enough, not good enough. Like, you know how
Yeah.
uh, you get all those feelings. So I wasn't really sure of what was happening. But he said, "Why don't you just, start something? How about bookkeeping?" And I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea because I can do that on the side. Right? I can teach myself bookkeeping and do that on the side. So the first few clients I got, I actually thought it was just going to be a side gig of just making some extra money to make ends meet. Yeah,
And, because I don't think you're a CPA, is that correct?
I am not. I have no formal training at all.
And so you've now got bookkeeping clients. What did you see or recognize or want to accomplish from that point?
So I thought it was really interesting, and I really believe that most founders need to get really good at sales. That's a really important skill, one of the most important skills. And I was learning how to get really good at sales, at lead generation and sales, and then closing. And because I was doing all of my own sales, I started asking a lot of questions, and the recurring answer always was, yes, I need help with my bookkeeping. But even if my bookkeeping is done, I still don't understand what I need to do with those numbers. I don't understand how to change my situation or improve my situation. And so in 2021, only 2 years in, because I started in January 2019, I decided to roll out fractional CFO services and really learn and teach people on how to interpret those numbers to improve their situation.
Wow. What a marvelous transition to increase the value that you were providing to your client.
I somehow that came naturally. I don't know if I ever learned that. But I just saw that there was a need. And I don't even think people were doing fractional CFO services very much at the time at all in 2021. And so I was just thinking, well, this is a really good way to help people to create a process. So I'm not doing it for free because that
Right.
happens, right? To create a process and to create deliverables and to learn as much as possible. And of course, I wasn't um, taking money for my learning. I had to learn on the side. So, and I was already used to that because I had to learn bookkeeping before that on the side and get really good at it. But what I did was every time I did bookkeeping, I was looking at how did it reflect on the financials, like what was going on in the balance sheet and the profit and loss and how did they impact one another. So I was really curious about what does this all mean and tried to analyze it. And I realized bookkeeping is not data entry. Bookkeeping should be done with an eye for what you need it to reflect to give you more clarity.
Wow. Most people today still haven't figured that out. So you're still a decade ahead.
Yes, and now there's so many businesses that there's so many people that start businesses, even that are extremely successful, upwards of 10 million, 20 million, 30 million and up, that still don't understand what can they do to make these little tweaks and little changes. Because a lot of times it's like just these little levers all over the place that you can change to make the biggest impact or to make a small impact but go in the right direction, trend in the right direction to make a big impact maybe 6 months down the line.
I love your story for a number of reasons, but and we haven't talked about this, but uh, my undergraduate work was I was trained in cost accounting and tax.
Oh, wow.
And in one of my masters, I took quite a bit more tax, and I never intended to do accounting.
Hmm.
I just understood that accounting was the language of business. And if you were a small business, in particular, tax could make a huge difference in cash.
Yes.
And so I wanted to understand how those things worked. So when I started a business or when I was an entrepreneur, I knew that fundamental foundational that you're talking about.
Hmm.
And then the interesting challenge was once I knew it, then I couldn't live without it. And I couldn't find bookkeepers. And so I ended up starting a small bookkeeping tax business, which was very successful, except candidly, I didn't like doing the work. I liked doing the consulting, but I
Yes.
didn't like a room full of people doing, bookkeeping. So, but now I have to tell this story. The accountant I have now, I looked for a bookkeeper, not a CPA, a bookkeeper, because I realized what you just said, how incredibly important that is. And I couldn't find one. And so I had to do it myself. And I actually keep track of my time. It took me 2 days a month to do my own bookkeeping. And
Hmm.
I knew how to do it. And I kept looking for a bookkeeper, looking. And I driving down the road one day and I see this SUV with the ad for a bookkeeper on the back of the SUV. I tried to write it down so when I got home, I could call it and reach out to this person. I wrote it down wrong
Oh,
and
no.
I couldn't find her. A year later, I'm on the same road and the SUV's in front of me again. And that time I made sure I got the numbers right. And she's now been my bookkeeper for 10 years, and I've referred her to a dozen other people because she is spectacular and makes my
Yes.
life so wonderful that I can't imagine doing business without her.
Bookkeeping is the foundation of everything in your business. And I don't understand sometimes when we see clients that are saying, oh, my wife will do it, or my girlfriend, or my employee's fiance, or like or even office manager or admin. It's not an administrative task. It's one of the most important hires that you can do. And the other problem is that most business owners don't know if their bookkeeping is incorrect. And and that's a problem too. I mean, there are things you can do a diagnostic and there are things to look at, but a lot of them don't know if it's incorrect. And these days, anyone with a computer can say they're a bookkeeper anywhere in the world, and they do. So that's what we're competing with. But I don't even feel like that's competition for us at all. We've taken that extra step because now I'm not doing the bookkeeping. I have a team of 15. So I have implemented checks and balances of having an in-house controller at the CPA level
Yep.
that knows the highly technical questions to ask. And so we always have a second set of eyes. So every single client, every single set of financials every month is reviewed by a CPA level controller before it goes to the client. And that's been really important because that's the foundation.
Yeah. So tell me, I mean, one of the reasons I sold the bookkeeping tax practice I had was managing those 15 people.
Yes.
I did not find that easy. Um, Tell me how you do it.
So I've learned a lot. It's funny, I love listening to other entrepreneur stories. And Layla Hormozi once said that she had to apologize to people because she didn't know how to do hiring. And so that was me the first couple of years of like hiring someone completely not in alignment, not doing the job or not even like not having the work ethic that's required. And then apologizing to the rest of the team that I'm still learning how to hire because I literally had to contact my team and be, I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure this out. So you can't, I believe that there are things that you can do to help to learn that process, but you still have to learn it even with those other things. And so we do use a 3 interview process that was written by Jeff Smart and Randall Street from the book Who.
Yeah.
It's a great book. I recommend it highly to everyone. We use that process with the scorecard. We do a full 3 interviews, plus we check references. That's really important because if you're in a rush to hire a person, that's usually a mistake. It's going to be extremely rare that you're going to get a great hire if you're in a rush. So
Yeah.
you'll probably make a mistake. We also do personality tests because the way someone is wired is really important. For instance, someone in a sales position is not going to be wired the same way as someone as a bookkeeper or a tax accountant, completely different. And you don't, and CFO also. So you don't want your CFO that doesn't have a visionary type of way to look at things. And you don't want like a salesperson who is not personable and gets their feelings hurt. So like those things are really important to look at. And even with all of those things that we do, you still cannot test anybody for work ethic or for character. And so that you find out when you hire them after you do all those other steps. And do we make a mistake? Yeah, we just recently we had someone that we hired. They were employed for about 4 weeks. We started asking questions like, was this done and this done and this done? And suddenly they quit. And then we look at the work and the work was not being done. And so that's a big, big waste of resources,
Oh, yeah.
but a lot less than if we kept that person for 6 months. So it's really important that once you hire someone that you meet with them on a regular basis, not necessarily the owner, but have that process that someone meets with them on a regular basis and checks on their work. And because we're remote, it makes that even the more difficult to do that. So we have to hold people accountable.
It, as I'm listening to you, I'm imagining that you tell some of these same stories to your clients.
I do because we talk about hiring a lot. The payroll to revenue or labor to revenue ratio tells us a lot of information. Are they productive? Are they efficient? Do you have the right people in the right place? Are you charging appropriately? Are you bringing value? So there's so many different questions that are answered when you're looking at the cost of labor. And most businesses are very labor heavy. So most of your revenue is going right out the door to pay for your people. And it's very important as any size business, not just a small or even a mid-sized business. I would even say for larger businesses, you can't afford to have unproductive, ineffective people or people that aren't aligned with your mission and vision. You just can't afford it.
Wow. You're 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 going to go places. The the language you we use in that space is capacity to deliver value.
Hmm.
And every person has a contribution to value. And the higher their capacity to deliver value, of course, the lower your cost and the higher your margin and all those other things. And most
Yes.
organizations don't think of that at all. And so when you bring that up to your client, just the fact you're introducing them to the concept is a really big deal.
Yes. It's really important. I find that's usually the biggest hurdle that most business owners are going through because they don't look at it in terms of who is bringing value and managing capacity. And you have to. It does sound a little bit cold, but the most important thing is when you have the right person in the right seat, you know immediately it's a relief.
Yeah.
It's just getting done. You don't have to check up on them. They're even doing more than you thought they would. They're resourceful. They're taking initiative. They're just amazing. And then when you hire someone that isn't a good fit, it's actually disrespectful to the
Yeah.
people that are a good fit.
Well,
And everybody knows.
it isn't, it's kind of like when you took the $7 an hour job, it really wasn't your perfect fit anyway. And,
Correct.
you weren't going to be there for the long term. And anytime you've got burnout, turnover, disengagement, that's not good for the employee or for the company.
Yes.
And, and
And you're not
so
doing them a favor by keeping them.
that's exactly right.
Hmm.
Exactly right. Well, we measure what's called the cost of the chaos to produce revenue. And that's in a B2B company. I don't care the size because we've done this with places as big as Johnson and Johnson and Siemens and people like that, and as small as two or three people. The cost of chaos in a B2B company is 20 to 40% of top line.
Hmm.
And about half of that is in the areas you just described. It's in burnout, turnover, disengagement, conflict internally, cross silo conflict.
Hmm.
And if you're a $2 million, as your general area, $3 million, if you had that kind of cost of chaos, you'd be hand over fist throwing away between 600,000 and over $1 million just in chaos. And
Hmm.
wouldn't you rather take that home?
Yeah, or wouldn't you rather reinvest that back into your business and build it even more? Build up cash reserves and then build up your business to be able to reinvest in the form of lead generation and sales. So you keep
Yes.
growing.
Yeah, and you nailed it right away. When you recover that chaos, it's really additional no cost capital.
Hmm.
And you should think about it as it's you've now recovered capital, and it's capital that you recover every year because if you every year are 30% less chaos than you were the year before, it's always available for reinvestment.
Hmm. And there are times I would say that it gets awkward in the business where the business grows, but it hasn't grown enough maybe for you to even put in another position or add another person. And then so someone has to take care of that. And for me, right now, it's usually been either the managers or myself. And so I get pulled back in, but that's because we're growing so rapidly also. Um, and we're getting to the point now where we are hiring in advance. Um, but it's not as convenient in that regard sometimes. So I want people to know that sometimes it's sometimes it is awkward. Sometimes you do get pulled back in, but you always with the eye for that you need to get back out of the day to day and you need to run the business. You don't want to be stuck in there because you can't run the business that way.
Yeah, one of the other things, the capacity, the right people, right seat thing. Many organizations talk about alignment. I want
Hmm.
my people aligned. And I think the research is pretty clear that alignment, we got that thought from robotics or from software. Robots are easy to align. You put them where you want them, you instruct them to do what you want them to do, and they're aligned.
Hmm.
People don't quite work that way. people need to first be unified to purpose. And if
Mhm.
all the people on your team see the same future, see the same goal, have the same dreams of transferring value and being a team member, then they can get aligned. But people
Yeah.
have to be unified first.
Mhm.
And you typically unify people to a purpose. What's the purpose of your firm?
I love that question. And I really believe the owner that your job is to keep driving revenue, driving the future, and driving the culture, which is the basically the purpose and the alignment. I make it, I constantly tell my team what we're doing is really, really important. I'm reminding them what we do is changing lives, and it has a ripple effect of if this business is if this business is improved, that means the lives of their employees are improved. That means usually their clients and customers, their lives are also improved. And then a lot of the times, business owners, they even, uh, you know, give to charities, so they improve their
Absolutely.
communities around them as well. So the ripple effect is tremendous. Um, I really truly believe that our entire country is built on the independent, critical thinking of entrepreneurs and supporting the businesses, small to mid-sized businesses for us specifically, is extraordinarily important. So aligning everybody or reminding them of the purpose that how we really help this person, how this person was scared and fearful and thought, I can't make payroll this month. And we got the numbers in so we could see what's actually happening, and we're not working with faulty data, and then giving them steps to improve. That is life changing for that business.
And as I think about, your story, and I think about, somebody who really wanted to make a difference and couldn't find a place where they would take advantage of your skills. Entrepreneurs, and in their best, they give people a place to make a difference, and they give people a place to have a living wage and to be able to afford to send their kids to school, and those kinds of things. I love your mental approach to this, because I think that's fundamentally where all the power comes from.
Yeah, I want my team, my employees to make more money than they ever have before, have the opportunity to keep developing and growing up in the business. That's why for us, revenue growth is so important because it gives opportunity to our employees. And we pay 100% for insurance, for the medical insurance. I don't think anybody does that anymore.
Not
So
very
they
many.
have Yeah, not very many. We have amazing benefits. Also, the work-life balance of being remote or hybrid, which is exceptional as well. So my goal is to really improve their lives. Now they work really hard. We're a very hard-working company. Like it's not unusual that I send a message out on a Sunday thinking that they'll just get it on Monday morning, and then by Monday morning it's done. You know, that's just who they are because they're passionate about it, and that's what I
Yes.
want.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When somebody sends you something on Sunday that excites you, you don't want to wait till Monday to do it. You want to get into it right now.
Yes, I've told my people when we're interviewing, I tell them that we don't expect you to work evenings and weekends, but most of us do. So if that's not resonating with you, that's probably not going to be a good fit for you. And like we don't want people to overwork, but people are excited and they want to get on top of it. They want to get ahead of it. They don't want to wake up on Monday with a million messages that they could have maybe handled somewhat over the weekend. It's the work-life balance is not really where it's 50-50 or less. It's kind of like you get to work throughout the week and the weekend. Make sure you get everything done. Sometimes you work a little bit more, sometimes you work a little bit less, depending on
Okay.
the time of year or the week. And I think that's what the balance is. It's not 50-50. It's sometimes 100% work, and not a lot for your personal stuff. And then sometimes it's a lot more personal stuff. And that's the balance.
Well, and the other thing that, as I'm listening to you, I relate to because I work a lot of hours, but I work a lot of hours because if I have a choice of dealing with an exciting client issue or watching a rerun on TV,
Hmm.
I want to do the exciting client thing. I
Yes.
mean, that's like a game or a competition or a something, but it's not like just watching another rerun of a Big Bang Theory or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. We have they actually compete against each other. And so now it's right now we're recording, it's January 2nd. So we're going to see who got out and have them already reconciled, reviewed, and send out the financials for December. And usually we start getting them out by the second. And like who's the first one that'll get the most out? So they compete against each other.
So, um, needless to say, we didn't follow our outline at all, and this has been really great. Um, as I two last, well, probably three last things I want to talk to you about. One is as I listen to you talk about the work you do, your team, how you serve your clients, you have to come up with a another name for the kind of work you do because you're doing work certainly well beyond bookkeeping, even well beyond fractional CFO because you're into operations and you're into revenue and you're in a variety of different places. How should we think about your business? What is it you really are?
What we really are, I think, excuse me, is to improve the business, improve profit and cash flow, and improve decision-making capacity and clarity for the business owner, and ultimately to build a business that is valuable and sellable. Even if you're not going to sell it, and not all businesses are specifically sellable, but if you're building a business as if you're going to sell it, you're building a business that's a much more healthy, profitable business than if you're not doing that. So that's ultimately what we want to do is we want to bring enough value so that that business also brings value and is and becomes an asset.
When I know you've got a copy of my book, when you
Mhm.
get into the part where we talk about smart stuff and dumb stuff, it sounds like your practice is about making sure your clients are always doing smart stuff.
Yes, and for me, CFO services, and it probably extends way beyond what normal CFO services do, it is partially strategy, it's partially mindset, and it's partially therapy.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of qualities to be a business owner. You have to be a leader. You have to be in the correct mindset, and you have to understand the strategy and do what's the most impactful. And so we do touch on all those things. I mean, we've had people cry on the calls. We've had
Oh, yeah.
people that just want to give up. It's hard, and so you need that support. And where else are you going to get it?
Yeah. Yeah. And just as I listen, you really deliver a lot more than when I hear bookkeeping or CFO services. You're well beyond that definition of the typical.
I think
Second
so.
thing I'd like to have you share is so much of what you've talked about is personal. I don't mean personal to you, it's personal to your client and to your team. Everybody in it is in it because we're people dealing with people.
Mhm.
So, how does AI play in your world?
We're very tech savvy. And I think that um, what we do is we use AI to do the manual or repetitive tasks faster. So, for instance, an accounting firm that might be 20 years old that is still using a lot of desktop features, they will have a team member that could maybe handle 10 to 15 clients. My team,
Yeah,
same amount of work, same would be able to handle 30 to 35 or maybe even 40 clients. So it makes us more streamlined, more automated, and allows us to bring more value because we're not using all of our time for just data entry. So we use AI a lot for just speeding things up. I use AI a lot for helping me write presentations, create slides, webinars, because it already understands what I do. It's connected to my website. It already knows a lot of my language. So it understands like what I do, and it just speeds it up so much faster. So whereas for me to create a webinar that would have taken me 4 to 8 hours before, takes me literally an hour or maybe even 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, so it just for me, AI is just it's not replacing anybody. Because AI doesn't know the difference between, for instance, revenue or an owner contribution, right? It just sees everything as money coming in. It can't make that distinction or do anything more high level, but it does speed everything else up. And so using technology, I think, is really important. And if you're not, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, okay, this has been a wonderful interview. I'm very impressed by you and your firm and the work you
Thank
do.
you.
Congratulations. I see why Inc. likes you. It makes perfect sense. So my last question for you is, what advice do you have first for new people coming into business? And you're clearly not just in one pigeonhole. You're a um, full view business provider support. So, new people coming in, what advice do you have? Should they start at a clothing store or something else? And then for senior people who are trying to figure out, what do I do in this crazy world that's not like it was last year? What advice
Mhm.
do you have for them?
Sure. I think for the person starting, um, really consider your business as if it's a separate entity from yourself. So open up a separate bank account, open up and really delineate what you're doing in your business and your personal life. Even if you have to invest money into that other account, that's going to help you see what's actually happening. And then I truly believe that it's never too soon to start bookkeeping. In fact, it's usually too late. You should start it immediately. And that way you can see what is your break even point. What do you have to charge? What makes sense? And of course, before you even do all of those exercises, you need to make sure that that the do your marketing, do your investigation to see, do people want your service or your product? Are people going to buy it? Is there you know is there what is that called? Is there a desire for it? Do people want
Sure.
it?
Their
Who
demand.
is there a demand? And who are those people
Yeah.
or businesses? So you need to do that investigation first to really understand that. Now, some of them are obvious, like bookkeeping is an obvious demand for most business owners. And sometimes you won't really know your ideal client for a little while, but within a few months, you should start figuring that piece out also, and start really getting into the nitty gritty of who is your ideal client and what does that look like. Um, so, uh, start the foundation of bookkeeping, keep everything separate, and know how to price, and then understand who your ideal client or customer is and sell to them. That's really important. For someone that's been around a while and everything is changing, I feel like the economic cycles used to come around every 5 to 10 years. Now economic cycles are coming around every 1.5 to 2 years, is what it seems like. It's everything has sped up. And how do you keep some semblance of control? Well, I think control is not real. There is no
Yeah.
such thing. So you're not going to be in control. But understanding the trends, that's why I think projections is really important. I love forecasting because it's my crystal ball for all of our clients and for myself. Of, are we trending in the right direction? Are there little leaks or little things happening that we can't see day to day? But if we're
Right.
looking at it as a projection, can we see that there's a trend going in the wrong direction? I think that's really helpful. And also understanding what your competition is doing. So my competition is going to be AI, right? More than likely, it's not going to
Yeah.
necessarily be another accounting firm. There's a bazillion accounting firms, and everybody says that they're an accountant. So there's a literally everybody on every street corner is an accountant. So I don't really consider them my competition, but I do consider AI as a very possible competition. So it's just keeping your eye on uh, trying to be 5 steps ahead. As an entrepreneur, you can't be relaxed. Unfortunately, you have to be a little bit paranoid and keep looking ahead and keep trying to, if you need to pivot, look and see what does that look like.
Wow. Very insightful. It was interesting when you said the new people in the game should start with bookkeeping immediately. One of the one of the things a lot of new people do when they don't set up bookkeeping is they say, well, they got this contract and it's for $10,000. And they can imagine spending the $10,000 on 20 different things. And the truth is, you only get to spend it once.
Hmm.
You can imagine all the things you could do, but when you put it into the bookkeeping and say, okay, rent and heat and light and payroll, all of a sudden you get the reality of your business. So
Yes.
I loved where you went there. And the application of trends. I don't know if you read Daniel Burrus, but if you don't, he would
Oh,
be a good futurist to read because his world is all about trends and he separates hard trends from soft trends and the ability to forecast. And he would talk to you about 10 years ago, we wanted to be agile. Today, if
mhm.
you're not agile, you're already out of business. And what you need to be in the future is predictive.
Mm,
And, so that really is what I heard in your conversation. You're going to help people predict the kinds of things that are going to happen and be prepared for them because then you're in the leader position as opposed to the follower position. So I
yes.
I am thrilled to have had you on the podcast. You're an absolute pleasure to interview. You're doing super cool stuff. And any last words you want to leave with the audience?
Any last words? Um, I think that one of the things that everybody needs to consider is lead generation and revenue building, because if you don't have that, you don't have a business. It could disappear overnight. And so I would say that is the most important piece of any business is sales.
Well,
You could,
thank you. And to have it on a podcast about revenue, that's as great a closing as we could get. So for those of you in the audience, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. We'll do another one in 2 weeks. And if you have now, you have a whole new resource. You can reach out to Natalia for a whole series of things that you didn't know you could get help with before. And if you want help creating a chief revenue officer, or you want to get your team certified in revenue generation, reach out and we'll be glad to give you a hand in that. So I thank everybody for joining us today and have a great 2026.